Hi, welcome back for another episode. So, in this episode, I am reading chapter 1 of Women Who Run with Wolves, and I'll be sharing my favorite passages within chapter 1. Um, and like I said, leave a comment if you have a particular question, and we'll address it. I'm very, very excited to be doing this episode. Actually, my favorite chapter comes next, which is chapter 2. I was so blown away to hear about Bluebird. So I just can't wait until the next chapter. But I know there's information for me to deepen my understanding within chapter 1. So let's get to it. So, chapter 1, The How, Resurrection of Wild Woman. And that's pretty powerful. Resurrection. She was dead, numb, whatever. And now it's time to bring her back into the form she's meant to be in. So the first thing that I've identified is on page 26. Ancient dissectionists spoke of the auditory nerve being divided into 3 or more pathways deep in the brain. They surmised that the ear was meant, therefore, to hear at 3 different levels. One pathway was said to hear the mundane conversations of the world. A second pathway apprehended learning and art. And the third pathway existed so the soul itself might hear guidance and gain knowledge while here on earth. I thought that was pretty profound. This idea that we hear or we can hear 3 different messages. And I feel like that speaks to what I said in an introduction video, how there are some people who are able to see and hear things that other people aren't able to. Like we're able to receive messages that other people are, like I said, are not aware of. So I think that's pretty interesting. So as we grow in our spirituality, we will also grow in our knowing. Next part, bone by bone, hair by hair, wild woman comes back. Through night dreams, through events half understood and half remembered, wild woman comes back. She comes back through story. I love that piece. Page 27, which is titled La Loba. I hope I pronounced that right. It says the sole work of La Loba is the collecting of bones. She is known to collect and preserve especially that which is in danger of being lost to the world. Her cave is filled with the bones of all manner of desert creatures, the deer, the rattlesnake, the crow, but her specialty is said to be wolves. Page 28. It is a painstaking process, best done when the shadows are just right, for it takes much looking. La Loba indicates that we are to look for the indisputable life force, the bones. What I'm enjoying about this chapter so far is like a guide, a map to help you learn yourself better. You know? It goes on to say, it promises that if we sing the song, okay, I skipped ahead. La Loba shows us what can go right for the soul. It is a resurrection story about the underworld connection to wild woman. It promises that if we sing the song, we can call up the psychic remains of the wild woman's soul and sing her into a vital shape again. And that brings me back to the last point that I had read about these 3 different forms of hearing. You hear one message when you're singing or being creative. And then the other message, let me remind myself about the other message. So one level is for mundane conversations, one is for learning and art, and the third pathway existed so the soul itself might hear guidance and gain knowledge. So, therefore, if you're singing and creating art, and you're also in tune, you have more that is channeled in with your spiritual growth, And so to me it seems like those forces would even outweigh the mundane, that third hearing. Back on page 28. In the tale, La Loba sings over the bones she has gathered. To sing means to use the soul voice. It means to say on the breath the true of one's power and one's need. To breathe soul over the thing that is ailing or in need of restoration. This is done by descending into the deepest mood of great love and feeling, till one's desires for relationship with the wildish self overflows. Then to speak one's soul from that frame of mind. That is singing over the bones. We cannot make the mistake of attempting to elicit this great feeling of love from a lover. So we should not be seeking this from others, which I believe our society has taught us, that you're going to find this person who completes you. But this is essentially saying, if you follow the steps, you'll find a way to complete yourself. And that's pretty powerful. All right, let me get back into it. That is singing over the bones. We cannot make the mistake of attempting to elicit this great feeling of love from a lover. For this woman's labor of finding and singing the creation hymn is a solitary work. We're meant to do it alone. A work carried out in the desert of the psyche. The desert of the psyche. Ooh, that's pretty sobering. 29. La Loba is vastly different in essence and effect, for she is the feeder root to an entire instinctual system. So La Loba, who collects the bones and sings them back into resurrection, is the feeder of the root. The root is what keeps us strong and steady. And so she's what ensures that our entire instinctual system is in order, or she helps us to ensure it's in order. Okay. Okay. In the Southwest, she is also known as Old La Que Sabe, the Juan de Cristo Mountains in New Mexico. Under the heart of Lobo Peak, an old witch from Ranchos told me that La Que Sabe knew everything about women. That La Que Sabe had created woman from a wrinkle on the sole of her divine foot. This is why women are knowing creatures. They are made in essence of the skin of the soul, which feels everything. This idea that the skin of the foot is sentient had the ring of truth. For an acculturated kitsch tribeswoman once told me that she'd worn her first pair of shoes when she was 20 years old, and was still not used to walking con los ojos vendados, with blindfolds on her feet. Let's drop down to the bottom. La Loba, the old one, the one who knows, is within us. She thrives in the deepest soul psyche of women, the ancient and vital wild woman. The La Loba story describes her home as that place and time where the spirit of women and the spirit of wolf meet. The place where her mind and her instincts mingle, where a woman's deep life funds her mundane life. It is the point where the I and the thou kiss, the place where women run with the wolves. I feel like I have to read that one again. The La Loba story describes her home as that place in time where the spirit of woman and the spirit of wolf meet. The place where her mind and her instincts mingle, where a woman's deep life funds her mundane life. It is the point where the I and the thou kiss, the place where women run with the wolves. Let's turn to 32. Jung cautions in his magnificent essay, The Transcendent Function, that some persons, in their pursuit of the self, will over aestheticize the God. Will over aestheticize the God or self-experience. Some will undervalue it, some will overvalue it, and some who are not yet ready for it will be injured by it. But still others will find their way to what Jung called the moral obligation. To live out and to express what one has learned in the descent or ascent to the wild self. So the moral obligation is to live out and to express what one has learned in the descent or ascent into wild self. So we are morally obligated to live as spiritual beings once we have been given the information that we need to grow, to ascend or descend. This moral obligation he speaks of means to live what we perceive, be it